Hello and welcome. It's 6 p.m. India time or 12:30 GMT. First up, news from South Asia. It's a big relief for journalists across India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday said that a controversial directive which could have cost journalists their government accreditation will be withdrawn. The Information and Broadcasting Ministry's move had attracted widespread criticism from journalists. The ministry had said on Monday that complaints of fake news would be referred to the Press Council of India if it pertains to print media or the News Broadcasters Association for the television media, and that those found guilty could lose their government accreditation. The diktat was seen as an unprecedented move to control the media ahead of a general election due next year. The Information and Broadcasting Ministry had threatened to withdraw the accreditation, which is required by journalists to enter government offices or attend events organized by the government. Right, joining me live from the WION newsroom is WION's senior foreign editor, Padma Rao. Good evening, Padma. Good to have you back on the dispatch. But this strong backlash forced the government to backpedal on this directive?
Well, you know, the thing is that it was all very mysterious. There was a quiet press release on Monday evening. There seemed to be a backlash, at least, you know, from the rumblings within the media. Meetings were being called and some sort of public action was being called. And then, you know, equally quietly, we heard from the Prime Minister's office withdrawing the press release. Now, what is going on? This I'm sure it's going to leave, you know, substantial egg on many faces in the government, because this is, you know, certainly fake news is a big subject and certainly fake news needs to be discussed and debated, but that is the operative word. Article 19 of the Indian Constitution guarantees freedom of expression and speech, even though it doesn't specifically mention the media. But the point is that that freedom of speech and expression is guaranteed in the Indian Constitution, and anyone who has tried even, you know, to tamper with it even slightly in the past, as indeed did happen in 1976 under former Congress Prime Minister Mrs. Indira Gandhi, they have, you know, met their just desserts. And I think that those lessons have been learned in India, both by the media as well as successive governments. However, I wouldn't go as far as to say that this was definitely a draconian diktat, you know, intended to curb and clamp the media. What it certainly was an attempt to clamp sections of the media that have been indulging in malicious and false reporting. But we must remember, Ramesh, that the bulk of this kind of reporting indeed you know, comes from the social media and social media websites, and indeed in the interim, you know, the internet and things have just expanded and gone forth so much, that developed so much that those social media websites are themselves you know, a form of an arm of the media, if you like, a new arm, if you like, just like, you know, initially there was only the print media and then came the electronic media and so on and so forth. I think the social media now really needs to be taken seriously and viewed as a branch of the media, because what it is doing is disseminating information. So I think a discussion has to be called, a debate has to be held, and certainly members of civil society and predominantly and you know, journalists, senior journalists, responsible journalists have to be involved in that discussion. But you cannot shoot the messenger, in this case accredited journalists, merely because this country and many other countries are facing the problem of fake news.
Right, and quick question, Padma, you mentioned about the social media. Now, fake news on the social media is a big problem, and governments everywhere are trying to combat this problem going forward. But how do you think governments across the world, including in our part of the neighborhood, deal with or balance the requirements or the freedom of expression on the one hand and slander and misinformation on the other hand?
Well, this is, I mean, it is going to be a bit of a tightrope walk, because on the one hand, we like to, you know, we like to group ourselves along with the United States, the world's oldest democracy, the world's largest democracy, and we pride ourselves, we take great pride in our democratic credentials. Now, all that is good. We don't live in a neighborhood which is exactly, you know, we're not exactly surrounded by the paragons of democracy, if you like. We have China on the one hand, which is a communist state. We have Pakistan, which is a failed state, if I may bring that that in here, which really doesn't have, where it's not the government that's really calling the shots. So there are, different kinds of problems in those countries. And China has chosen a very draconian approach to social media sites. It simply banned them. Now, in India, of course, we can't do that because precisely the constitution that I was referring to guarantees that there will be freedom of expression and that means the media will not be gagged. So we have to tread a fine line and walk a tightrope. And it's interesting, Ramesh, but the person who actually coined the term fake news is President Donald Trump himself, who was very much the butt of the false, fake news in the United States. But was he able to do anything about it? No. I think the only thing he could do is to announce his annual fake awards and, practically turn it into a bit of a private joke for his fans on Twitter. But as far as touching the Constitution of the United States, no way. And that is, I'm happy to announce that is exactly the way it is in India as well.